Welcome to our Shorts Program 3 Filmmaker Q&A. My name is Rebecca Fagerholm. I am the Festival Director of Cinema Femme Short Film Festival. And I'm just so excited to be here and have everybody joining us. Before we get started, just want to give a little introduction about this program. I'm calling it the Festival Director's Cut because I'm calling it the Breaking Down Walls program. And the reason why is that's kind of the essence of Cinema Femme, which I link to authentic stories directed by women and non-binary people, and really just bringing something to the interesting industry that's real and raw, and just, I really feel like Cinema Femme is changing things, and these films are a great example of that. So I'm so happy about this program and the filmmakers that can join us. The festival runs online till May 4th, and you can access all the films now on our Eventive platform. And we are having our last in-person evening to Wednesday night at the Music Box, and we're actually going to have Shorts Program 3 showing. Our moderator for this program is one of my good friends, Patricia Vidal Delgado. She is the director of the Sundance Gem, Leyenda Negra, and I'm just so excited to have her here with us. I want to thank our sponsors, Neon Heart Productions, Prism Studios, Noise Floor, Hike Creative, and we're fiscally sponsored by IFA Chicago. So I'm going to leave you guys, and then I'll come back right at the end to say goodbye.
Thank you so much for the fantastic introduction, Rebecca. I'm so excited to meet you directors. So if you don't mind, we can just dive in. And I would ask you to please tell us your name, the title of your short film, where you're joining us from, and also give us a little synopsis for those who are joining us who haven't yet had a chance to check out your work. So if we could please start with Kiki.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kiki Allgaier. I am the director of Pigeon, and I'm from Los Angeles. That's where I'm zooming in from. And our short film is about a woman in her 40s going through a breakup in New York City around the holidays. And really, it's kind of this beautiful mirroring of her feeling very vulnerable, and she finds a wounded pigeon on the street who she decides to try and save. And so it's about her and this pigeon kind of saving each other in a way.
It's such a beautiful story, and very touching, and especially if you're an animal lover, it's a must-see. And Larissa's performance is incredible, and I loved your really bold stylistic choices, like the lighting was just really magnificent. Can we please go next to Noam?
Hi, I'm Noah Margov. I'm the writer-director of Sulam. I'm in Brooklyn, and it's a mother-daughter immigrant story about a mother who relies on her daughter to translate for her, and how that sort of comes to a head when the daughter wants to take her life into her own hands and has a coming-of-age moment.
It was, to me, like a beautiful representation of like a mother-daughter relationship with all its tensions, and as the daughter's getting older, and that push-pull. And I hope I don't give too much away when I say I just love that wordless gesture of apology / reconciliation. I thought was just so beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Could we please go next to Clelia?
Hi, everyone. I'm Clelia Goodchild. I'm the director of Pluma, and I'm calling you from Spain, Valencia. Pluma follows the story of a family of drag queens in Barcelona and kind of seeks to understand a little bit what happens behind the stage and why they choose to perform and do what they do.
Yes, such an important and vital portrait of that community, and also the impact of COVID on Pluma's activities. And I hope we can talk a little more later about your mother's poem at the end of the film, because Matt references that in his article for the festival, and it's just so amazing, that story. If we could please go next to Lorraine.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Sovert. I apologize in advance. I'm recovering from a lost voice. I got my microphone. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm in Orlando, Florida currently. Gonna be flying out to Chicago tomorrow. Really excited. I directed Forward Fast, which is an experimental documentary all about the process of archival when I went through the movies that I started making when I was a little kid and noticing the ways in which I was replicating the male gaze and understanding the language of cinema to be a very specific thing.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed that exploration. And also, I mean, the history of the male gaze in cinema is it's well documented, but I had never really seen someone make that point that when young girls turn cameras on themselves, how they replicate the gaze as well. It was really, really interesting. Could we please go next to Emma?
Hi, my name is Emma Duvall, and I am the co-writer and director of Julia. And Julia is based on my mom's childhood. She grew up in a South Korean orphanage until she eventually aged out. And the short is really just one of her pivotal memories from the orphanage. And I wanted to tell her story and also explore how her and her orphanage sisters created such strong bonds and relationships, and how that was really the only thing that allowed them to survive through their childhood. It was really incredible.
Yeah, just a gorgeous story about friendship and forgiveness, and how you can find strength in sisterhood even through the most harrowing ordeals. Yeah, really, really beautiful, touching message. And last but not least, Sandra, please.
Hi, I'm Sandra Lipsky. I'm calling in from Los Angeles. My movie is called Mi Isla, which actually shot in Mallorca, Spain. That's where I grew up. And the movie is about a very busy producer mom in LA with her 2.5-year-old daughter. She doesn't have much time for, and then she inherits a hotel in Mallorca and has to go back. And it sort of opens up this window to her childhood that she used to spend there, and makes her reflect. And I think it's sort of a coming home story a little bit. And it's a very personal story too.
And such gorgeous cinematography. And I also have to commend you on your daughter Alma's performance, who's a complete natural.
Yes, thank you.
What a little wonder. So I'll go to our next question while we wait for maybe the Q&A to get started with the audience. What made you want to tell this story? And could we maybe start with Kiki?
I've directed, I come from documentary and then have directed my own written material, and I really wanted to direct someone else's script. So I met Liz Hamilton a long time ago, but and I went through a number of scripts, and it came out that I was looking for one, and I was given her script, and it was really just very alive. It was very human, and it kind of, it also, this is her first script, so it wasn't formulaic. She didn't have a template that she was kind of following. And so there was something about it that just captured kind of the vulnerability we have as humans, as women in our 40s. I think the world tends to not see you as clearly, especially someone single without kids going through a breakup. I found that to be an interesting perspective. Someone in New York City who felt invisible. And so her way to kind of, I think, be seen was to see another vulnerable being. So there was just something about that and the really freshness and aliveness of the script, the very humanity. It's also like darkly funny and biting. And I loved everything about it. So that's why I decided to direct this movie.
And did you already know Elizabeth, or?
Yeah, we met like 10 years ago. We had both worked for Morgan Spurlock a long time ago. And so I knew her. I knew she was a funny lady. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Kiki, can we go to Noam next?
Sure. I think for me, it's the film is kind of based on a couple of different memories that I have, like growing up as an immigrant in the US. And it's like one of those stories that I would always tell, like other immigrant or like first gen friends. And I think I was just sort of interested in this notion that like I used to be really ashamed of my mom for her like inability to survive in the US without me, and like why can't she be like an American mom? And then kind of as an adult, like the shame that I feel now retrospectively for how I didn't understand how difficult it was for her. And so it's the whole process was this very like self-reflexive filmmaking process where like I shot in my hometown in Central Florida, and like we tried to find locations that were similar to the ones that I grew up in, and we used some like artwork in the production design that's like artwork we had on our walls when we immigrated to the US. And so it was this kind of like memory remaking filmmaking process of reconciling my past and my relationships with my family.
Yeah, thank you so much, Noam. And Clelia, please. Thank
you. I think in the case of Pluma, I'd really always been very interested in kind of what happened behind the performances of drag queens and drag kings. And drag kings actually is something I'd heard very, very little about. I had barely any knowledge that they even existed. You know, I kind of had heard of it, but from a very large distance. And I was looking for my kind of next film to make, which was the first film I was going to make on my own. So it was quite an important one for me, kind of trying to find my own voice at the same time. And I had a chance encounter with a drag queen, and we got to know each other, and I got to know the drag family, and that's how it was all born.
And it seems that you did film for quite a long period of time. Is that right?
I ended up, yeah, I mean, it wasn't a huge amount of time, but the thing is, I started filming about 4 months before COVID. So the entire story had to change and adapt to the new reality that we were all faced with. So all in all, it was about a year.
And would it be okay for you to talk to us a little bit about your mother's poetry at the end? Because it's just such a beautiful story, and I want to share it with the Cinema Femme audience, if that's okay with you.
Thank you. Yeah. Unfortunately, whilst I was making the film, my mother passed away, and this was a huge shock for me and for my brother and my father, and of course the rest of our family. And my brother also is there. My mother is someone who always really, really supported me to kind of, you know, go for what I wanted for in life, not shy away from the arts. You know, a lot of parents tell their children to do sciences and not focus on the arts at all. And I had a very, very different upbringing from my parents. And so during the film, even in moments that I was really discouraged, she was an absolute driving force and was always really trying to push me on, and was also very inspired by the drag queens and the drag king in the film. And she wrote a poem for them. And a month later, she passed away. So it was really the last poem she wrote. And it's about rebirth, which is now amazing for us to have and to be able to hold on to.
Absolutely, so very beautiful and touching. Could we go to Lorraine next, please?
Of course, yeah. I mean, when I started the project, I was genuinely coming from a place of wanting to preserve these films that I started making when I was, 8, 9, 10 years old. And it was when I started to uncover all of these kind of, shocking revelations that I was like, I feel like I need to share this. And as much as it was like incredibly vulnerable and I was experiencing a lot of vulnerability hangover, it felt like it was a really important way to create healing, not only for myself, but hopefully for other people, to find that sense of mass catharsis and connection. And I think that film is such a vital tool for bringing people all over the world together. And I found that specificity really did breed universality there. And it spoke to so much more than just women and young girls. I've gotten such amazing feedback from all different types of people. And so as much as it's, been very personal journey in my own healing, it's been really amazing to hopefully have that impact as well.
And such an honest film as well. I mean, I think that we can probably all see ourselves in how harsh we are on ourselves as women and as girls. So thank you so much. I mean, it's scathing, but it felt really, really raw and authentic. So thank you. Can we please go next to Emma?
Well, Julia's about my mom, so I feel like there's obviously that very close connection, but I had always known that I wanted to make a film about her childhood, but it felt like such a precious story that I was almost too afraid to approach because I didn't want to mess it up. And especially because I had never made any sort of film before, it felt like too big of like a first topic to approach. But what happened was actually back in 2020, my mom and a couple of her orphanage sisters were featured on a news story in South Korea because there is so much stigma against orphans in South Korea. It's very interesting. It's very different from what you would think in the United States, but there's almost like a class system, and bloodline is very, very important to Korean citizens. So orphans who don't have a bloodline to trace are just shunned from the rest of society. And in that news story, they talked about their childhood. And I remember my mom being so nervous for it to come out because she thought there would be backlash, that they were giving them a platform. And actually, when it came out, people were so upset about what happened and they were outraged. And this was like really the first time that they had ever experienced empathy from the rest of Korean society. And that was, even though it was such a small thing, was like a huge sign of change. And that's when we were like, I feel like we should keep going with this. And I know that I have wanted to make a film about this, and it just kind of all aligned to where it seemed like the right time to tell their story and to be a voice for my mom and her orphanage sisters. And that's kind of what catapulted all of it.
Thank you so much, Emma. And Sandra, please let us know.
Yes. So my movie was inspired from the beginning, from those tapes, actually, that later you see in the film, these old, very old tapes that my family did of myself as a kid growing up in Spain. And I found them during COVID in an old box somewhere in a corner and had them all digitalized. And when I saw them, I was like, wow. And then it kind of caught me in that moment where now I'm a mom and I don't live there anymore. And I'm just rethinking my whole life of, I'm being so far away from family. And do I want to go back home and her to actually grow up with her grandparents? Like, what do we sacrifice? It's kind of about sacrifice. and how much is it about us, and how much, when you do have a kid, then is it about them, or do you actually live in denial and it's about you still? So it's just like all these thoughts that I have every day I kind of put in there about, I guess, growing up and not being the number one person in your life anymore, because now you have another being to care about.
Thank you so much. We have a question from Rebecca. Though each of your films work beautifully as a short, do you have plans of expanding it to feature length? And whoever would like to answer, please go ahead.
Sure, I'll go. Yes, I'm actually, so this project, actually the reason why I was able to do it was the Mallorca Film Commission had a pitch out that I won. I was one, so there was like 100 applicants and 5 people won. I was the only woman. So I had a lot of weight on my shoulders to represent the women filmmakers from the island. And now actually I am working on the feature film script, and I hope to shoot next fall. So yeah, that's the plan, which will be my debut feature as a director. I've done like 7 shorts, so it's also time to move forward, I feel like.
I'm also working on kind of a sister project to Forward Fast. So also using home video archive, but this time not from the camera that I bought when I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker, but from my family's home video footage starting when I was born until when I was 10 years old. And so I want to look at the family archetypes, breaking them up, and the ways that those dynamics really shape who we are and our relationships with our family. And basically, you know, the whole struggle of either, you know, conforming to that or spending your whole life having to rebel against that. And so I'm really excited to be diving into that project this summer. It's called The Hanged Priestess.
I'm not working on a feature for my short, but I just want to say it's so cool learning about everyone's films this way. And I'm going to Chicago Wednesday and get to see them all. But I love hearing from all of you guys, your films. It sounds amazing.
Does anyone else have any feature plans that they would like to tell us about? No, not so far. Okay. I do have a question that stems from an observation that both Emma and Sandra, both of you have ample experience as professional actresses. And I did want to ask, like, how did that previous experience translate to directing?
Yeah, I think that, well, it was really interesting because it wasn't just my first time directing, but I was also working with really young kids, which I think the approach is just so different. And I think that being an actor, I understood that having the freedom to play and not be too just overly directed and too like contained into like one specific thing I have to do was really helpful. And so, and that also really played into directing kids, because I mean, you're always fighting, at least in my experience, like they still have these nerves of being in front of the camera, and like it's so natural to just stiffen up as soon as it turns on. And so it was a constant battle against that. And I just know for myself, being able to be as relaxed as possible and understand that if it's not perfect, if I do something a little bit different, that's okay, and that's embraced, was the best approach forward. And then I was also just so lucky with our main adult actor who played the caretaker, because she is just a phenomenon, and she came so well prepped and felt like she was just incredible. She was just such a professional, and she was someone who I could count on, who if the kids started to stray in the scene, I didn't have to come in and stop the take, because she would take over and get them back on track. And I think being able to have that connection with her and being able to trust her, and so that I don't have to step in and cut, was really incredible. And so I think that I just didn't want to be too overbearing. I just wanted to let them be able to breathe and find it themselves, because that's just how I enjoy working as an actor. So that was my natural approach.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting because I have a similar experience. I mean, I'm very lucky because my cinematographer is my husband, and he's done all my short films with me, and I act in all of my shorts so far. So I always have like his eye behind the camera that I trust 100%, that is like worth gold. And I know that. So it's not like he directs me, but we have a very extensive talk in the beginning where I explain to him exactly what I want and what I need from myself. And then he just gets that. So I don't watch back really. I just watch back when he says, you know what, you're not going to like this, sort of a thing. So I'm really lucky in that sense. And then also my daughter in this film, when we shot it, she was 2.5. So she didn't really know what we were doing. But the first day on set, we had a very small crew that was really important to me. So we were at tops, we're like 15 people on set. And the first day I had my little welcome speech and I said, this is going to be a little bit different, this shoot. Like the timeline and the timing of things is going to be determined by my 2.5-year-old daughter. So if she's ready to shoot, we will shoot. And again, it's so great that her dad had the camera in his hand, so she wasn't weirded out by it. It's funny that actually I tell the story a lot. The day after the last day of shooting, we shot for 4 days. She woke up, she's like, where's the camera? Where's the camera? And I'm like, yeah, here we go. Another one bites the dust, right? Another natural born actress. Where's the camera? So it was really cute. And yeah, so yeah, we were very much, she was in every scene. So we very much waited for her to be ready, but she was really a natural, like you said. It was really incredible. Maybe though, because she was so little that she didn't really understand what we were doing. I'm not sure, but it was a good experience, much better than I anticipated. So, yeah.
So you would consider doing it again, putting her in your feature? Easily.
Yes. So I'm actually writing it where now when we will shoot, she'll be 5.5 or nearly 6, which is great because now I can write her dialogue. I had some dialogue in the short, and when my husband wrote the script, he's like, that's not going to happen. And it didn't. Like, she had some gibberish in it. So now we can have a conversation, which I think is going to just add to the characters, like density and everything. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, unfortunately, our time has come to an end. But thank you so much for sharing your wonderful films with the Cinema Femme audience. And I look forward to checking out your new work very soon. Thank you.
And I'm just here to say thank you all for coming and participating and submitting your films. Cinema Femme wouldn't be Cinema Femme without you all, so thank you. Yeah. And also I want to let you know what's coming up this evening. I'm doing a Q&A with Rebecca Tickle, who is the director behind Regenerate Ojai, and we're going to highlight and spotlight her environmental activism that she brings to the screen. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing Shorts Program 4 Q&A moderated by Ashley Shelton, and that'll be our Before Midnight Part 2 program. And then we're in person, and then we have the awards. So it's going quite quickly. And I look forward to seeing a few of you on Wednesday. So hope you can make the pizza dinner. So everybody have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much.